Under the gentle hues of a setting sun, my graduation party, meant to celebrate years of relentless effort, was torn apart by a voice so loud it silenced everything. "You ungrateful brat," my father roared, his fury echoing across the backyard. Just like that, the joyous atmosphere vanished. "Your sister needs that inheritance more than you do. She has dreams, ambitions." My name is Emma Sullivan. At 22 years old, I stood frozen, watching the man who raised me set fire to my engineering diploma, an emblem of 4 years of relentless effort, sleepless nights, and academic excellence. My mother stood beside him, nodding in agreement as if this act of destruction was somehow justified. Behind them, Amanda, my older sister, smirked triumphantly. The flames licked up the edges of the paper, devouring not just ink and parchment, but every ounce of sacrifice I'd made to earn it. "I worked hard for this," I said, voice steadied despite the whirlwind of betrayal tightening in my chest. "That money should go to your sister," my mother added, her tone calm, as if she were explaining a simple household decision. "She's opening an art gallery. She needs support." "You already have a job lined up. You don't need the inheritance," my father continued. I scanned the crowd of gathered relatives. Some stared at their shoes, others recorded the scene like it was a viral video waiting to happen. Only my great aunt Margaret, my grandfather's sister, met my eyes. Her expression told me she understood. She always had. The irony stung. While I'd been drowning in textbooks and acing every class to keep my GPA at a perfect 4, Amanda had been cycling through 5 different careers, from yoga instructor to social media influencer to lifestyle coach, each one ending in failure. Her latest obsession with opening an art gallery was no more credible, yet here our parents were, ready to hand her my future. "The inheritance is mine," I said firmly. "Grandpa left it to me. It's in his will." My father took a threatening step forward, the ashes of my diploma scattered around his shoes. "We're your parents. We know what's best. Sign the papers. Transfer the inheritance to Amanda, or you're no longer part of this family." I remembered the last conversation I had with my grandfather just 3 months before he passed. Lying in a hospital bed, he'd taken my hand and whispered, with a glint in his eye, "Stay sharp, little fox. Watch everything. You'll know when to strike." Back then, I hadn't fully grasped his meaning, but now, seeing my father's face turning red with rage, my mother's rehearsed disappointment, and Amanda's barely hidden greed, everything suddenly clicked. "No," I replied. The slap was instant, sharp, and humiliating. My father's hand met my face before anyone could react. A glass fell somewhere behind me. Gasps rang out. My mother brought her hand to her mouth in feigned horror, while Amanda's smug grin only widened. "Then get out," my father shouted. "You're no daughter of mine." I touched my burning cheek, then smiled. That smile unsettled them. They didn't expect calm. They expected collapse. "Okay," I said softly, stepping away. "See you at the lawyer's office next week." "What lawyer's office?" Amanda asked, her voice trembling just slightly, her confidence slipping. I didn't answer. I just walked away, my father shouting, fading behind me. Aunt Margaret caught up with me just as I reached my car. "You knew this would happen," she said. Not a question, but a confirmation. I nodded as I opened the door. "Grandpa warned me. He said they'd show their true colors as the deadline approached." She smiled, laying a warm hand on my arm. "George always said you were the clever one." "Did you get everything on record?" I glanced at my cousin Michael, who was walking up with his phone raised. "Every word," he confirmed. "The threats, the burning, the slap, got it all." "They have no idea what's coming, do they?" Aunt Margaret said with a grin. I started the engine, thinking of the upcoming meeting, the real will my parents had never seen, the one Grandpa meticulously planned. No, I said. They That night, I stayed at Aunt Margaret's house. My phone buzzed nonstop with texts from relatives. Some scolded me for being selfish. Others expressed shock at my father's behavior. Amanda, ever the provocateur, sent a string of messages about how she planned to redecorate my childhood room. I didn't respond. Instead, I reviewed the documents my grandfather had left with his lawyer. This wasn't just about money, it was about control over the family business, the house my parents lived in, and several other properties. The version of the will they had seen was a decoy, crafted to mislead. The real one told a different story, written by a man who had grown tired of watching my parents elevate Amanda and ignore everything I had achieved. Sometimes, Grandpa once told me, people have to lose everything to finally appreciate what they had. As I prepared for bed, Aunt Margaret brought me a cup of tea. He'd be proud of you, she said. He always believed you had his spirit, the patience to wait for the right moment. I thought of the family meeting where everything would be revealed. I pictured the look on my father's face when he realized what his outburst had cost him. I imagined my mother's carefully curated disappointment crumbling under the weight of truth. And Amanda, so used to winning by manipulation, facing the reality that she'd bet on the wrong sister. The right moment, I whispered, sipping my tea. That's what Grandpa taught me to wait for. Then came Aunt Margaret and Uncle Paul, walking in with calm expressions and giving me supportive nods that offered more comfort than words ever could. Moments later, the storm arrived. My parents swept into the room like royalty in exile, Amanda following behind them like a shadow, her face smug with the confidence of someone expecting a windfall. This is unnecessary, my father declared to the room, his voice laced with disdain. We should be handling family matters privately, like you handled Emma's graduation party. Aunt Margaret's voice sliced through the room like a blade. The tension thickened immediately. A few relatives shifted awkwardly in their chairs, no doubt recalling the now viral videos of my father's public meltdown, complete with screaming and a flaming diploma. Mr. Matthews, my grandfather's longtime lawyer, cleared his throat. Shall we begin? My father opened his mouth to protest, but Mr. Matthews was already reading. The first items were formalities, small bequests to distant relatives, donations to causes my grandfather supported. My mother visibly straightened in her seat. Amanda casually pulled out her phone, likely preparing to document her triumph for social media. My father leaned back with a smug expression, clearly confident about what was coming. Then Mr. Matthews' tone shifted. Now, regarding the primary estate, including Sullivan Manufacturing, all related properties, and liquid assets, he paused, locking eyes with my parents. Mr. George Sullivan left specific, detailed instructions about their disposition. My mother tensed. Amanda's fingers hovered above her phone screen. My father sat up straighter, the confident smirk still plastered on his face. The entirety of the estate, Mr. Matthews continued, is left to Emma Sullivan, with detailed conditions governing its stewardship and management. Silence fell over the room like a sudden storm. Then chaos erupted. This is outrageous, my father shouted, jumping to his feet so abruptly that his chair nearly toppled over. We saw the will months ago. It was just a modest trust fund. That was a preliminary draft, Mr. Matthews responded, entirely unshaken. This version was signed, witnessed, and notarized 3 months before Mr. Sullivan's passing. It supersedes all prior documents. Amanda's phone slipped from her hand, clattering loudly against the polished wood floor. But my gallery. There's more, the lawyer went on, his voice raised slightly over the noise. The property currently occupied by Thomas and Diana Sullivan is part of the estate. The occupants have 30 days to either purchase the home at full market value or vacate the premises. My mother's expression crumbled. Vacate, she whispered, her voice suddenly small. But that's our home. No, I said for the first time. It's my home now. Grandpa left it to me, along with everything else you tried to manipulate me into surrendering. You planned this, my father hissed, stepping forward with a fury that made a few relatives gasp. You twisted his mind, manipulated him. Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Matthews said sharply, his voice cutting through like a judge's gavel. This meeting is being recorded. Any attempt at aggression will be documented, and given your recent behavior, that could carry legal consequences. My father froze mid-step, his eyes finally noticing the security cameras positioned throughout the room. He said nothing as he slowly sat down again. Mr. Sullivan also recorded a video message, Mr. Matthews continued. Would you like to see it? Before anyone could respond, the screen behind him lit up and my grandfather's face filled the room. He looked older, frailer than I remembered, but his eyes were as sharp and commanding as ever. If you're seeing this, he began, then Emma has finally stood up to you all, just as I taught her. He paused for a beat, then continued with deliberate calm. I watched, year after year, as you dismissed her efforts, belittled her accomplishments, and favored Amanda, who has yet to hold on to a single responsibility longer than 6 months. I built Sullivan Manufacturing from the ground up. I understand what it means to work hard, to commit, to lead with both intellect and heart. Emma embodies all of these things. Amanda tried to speak, but Aunt Margaret raised a hand, firm and commanding, silencing her. She's not my favorite, Grandpa's image continued, but she's the one who earned this. She's the one who can carry this legacy forward. She waited, she learned, she adapted. That is why she inherits it all. My mother was in tears, whether from sorrow or shame, I couldn't tell. My father sat motionless, the blood drained from his face. Amanda stared blankly at her phone on the floor, her dream collapsing in real time. There's more, Mr. Matthews said as the video faded. Shall we proceed? Yes, I answered, opening the folder I'd brought with me. Let's discuss the future of Sullivan Manufacturing. I have some changes in mind. The room tensed again. I could feel the shift, the unease of a power dynamic forever altered. These, I said, spreading the documents out on the table, are the restructuring plans I've been working on. My degree might have been reduced to ashes, but my knowledge remains intact. Our current processes are outdated, our technology is lagging, and employee morale is dangerously low. Oh, you can't just barge in and change everything, my father snapped, regaining some of his fire. I've run this company for 20 years. Into the ground, I said coolly, sliding a report in front of him. Here's the last 5 years of financials. Declining market share, 60% turnover rate, and 3 major clients who've already pulled out. Aunt Margaret picked up one of the reports, nodding gravely. George tried to tell you, Thomas. You refused to listen. The first change, I continued, is the executive board. Effective immediately, we're replacing the current members with individuals who actually have experience in this industry, not golf partners or Amanda's ex-boyfriends. My father's face turned a dangerous shade of red. Oaks, I said, we're implementing the employee profit sharing plan Grandpa designed before you shelved it. Every employee will have a real stake in our success. You'll bankrupt us, my mother cried out, panic rising in her voice. Mr. Matthews calmly handed her a packet. According to these projections, this plan could double the company's profitability within 18 months. I turned to Amanda. She had remained silent, her bravado gone. You wanted an art gallery, I said. Fine. The company will be launching an art therapy program for employees and their families. You can manage it if you complete a business plan and earn the necessary certifications. Amanda blinked, caught completely off guard. You're giving me a chance? I'm giving you an opportunity to earn something, I corrected. That's more than you ever gave me. My father stood again, but this time his movements were slow, heavy. "You can't do this," he said, but the desperation in his voice betrayed the truth. I already had. "I won't let you destroy my legacy," my father snapped, his voice sharp and trembling with defiance. I chuckled quietly, not out of mockery, but from the sheer absurdity of his words. "Your legacy?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Look around you, Dad. You're sitting in a crumbling company, in an office that no longer belongs to you, lashing out at the person who now holds the keys to everything you thought was yours. What exactly are you trying to preserve?" The words hung heavy in the air. For a moment, he didn't reply. He looked around slowly, as if truly seeing the room for the first time, not as a place of command, but a relic of a power he no longer had. And then something remarkable happened. The truth hit him. The delusions he'd clung to for years began to dissolve. His shoulders slumped. He sank back into his chair, decades of unchecked arrogance collapsing under the simple weight of undeniable fact. "Now," I said, my voice steady as I reached into my folder, "let's talk about what happens next." My mother leaned forward slightly, her eyes hopeful. She was likely expecting some kind of generous settlement, a way to save face and maintain the comfortable lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to. But instead, I slid two identical documents across the table, one for her, one for my father. "These are your options," I began. "You can remain with the company, but under my leadership, starting in entry-level roles from the ground up, just like Grandpa did, just like I did during my summer internships while Amanda was backpacking across Europe. On your credit cards." My mother paled. "Entry level?" she echoed, as though the term itself were beneath her. "But our lifestyle will have to change," I finished for her. "The company mansion is being sold to help fund our modernization project. You have three choices. Take the jobs I'm offering, buy the house at market value, or start packing." Silence engulfed the room. Around the table, our relatives looked on, some stunned, others clearly trying to suppress satisfied smirks. Aunt Margaret didn't bother hiding hers. She looked proud. Then, unexpectedly, Amanda spoke. "I'll do it," she said, her voice clearer than I'd heard it in years. Everyone turned toward her, surprised. "The art therapy program," she continued. "I'll get certified, I'll write a business plan. I want to earn this." I studied her closely. There was something different in her expression, something I hadn't seen before. Maybe it was understanding, maybe respect, or maybe, for the first time, a genuine sense of purpose. "Time to decide," I said, standing. "You have until the end of the week. After that, the positions will be filled by qualified outside applicants." As people filed out of the conference room, murmuring amongst themselves, Aunt Margaret lingered behind. She walked over and pulled me into a hug. "Your grandfather would be so proud," she whispered. "You didn't just win. You showed them mercy without surrendering your strength." Taught me well," I replied, returning her embrace. "Sometimes the best revenge isn't about tearing people down. It's about giving them a chance to face their own failures and grow from them." 3 months passed, and Sullivan Manufacturing began to transform. My father, swallowing the pride that had once defined him, accepted a role in quality control. Ironically, he discovered he enjoyed it, working with his hands again, focusing on details, much like he had in the early days under Grandpa's guidance. My mother chose not to rejoin the company. She moved into a smaller home purchased with her savings. Gone were the maids, the chauffeurs, and the catered dinners. Aunt Margaret dubbed her new life character building. And surprisingly, my mother endured it, perhaps even learned from it. Amanda, who had been the greatest wild card of all, surprised everyone. She completed her business certification in record time. Her proposal for the art therapy program was not only thorough, but inspired. She now oversees the initiative and, for the first time in her life, she works harder than anyone expected. Just last week, she thanked me for not making things easy, for giving her something real to fight for. As for the company, the changes were already showing results. Employee morale surged after the profit sharing plan was implemented. Technological upgrades revitalized our production lines, drawing in new clients. Our stock price climbed over 30% in just 3 months. The future was bright, not because of luck, but because of clear vision, solid leadership, and a commitment to rebuilding from within. Sometimes late at night, I sit alone in what used to be my father's office, now mine, and I look at the photo of Grandpa on my desk. His eyes, as sharp as ever, seem to follow me. Stay sharp, little fox, he used to say. And I remember leadership isn't about dominance or control. It's about knowing when to wait, when to act, and when to forgive. It's about building, not burning. On the shelf beside me is a small wooden box. Inside, I keep the ashes of my diploma, not as a bitter reminder of that painful day, but as a symbol that destruction doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning of something stronger, wiser, and far more enduring. Because in the end, the best revenge, it isn't about getting even. Oh, it's about rising higher.